If you were to ask me not too long ago what I thought Godwyn was based off, I'd say that Miyazaki probably was high on cocaine and he just so happened to follow one of his kinks and put it into the game, aka Squid Tentacle Monster. But now I've changed my opinion on that, and I think there's a really good inspiration for Godwyn that's been hidden for a long time. This was brought to my attention from an email not too long ago, and it's changed my perception on Godwyn, especially considering some of the aspects of this animal which link in with Godwyn's story. If you're already subscribed, please just bloody ignore this, but a small percentage of the people that watch these videos are actually subscribed. If you do end up enjoying the video, and only if you end up enjoying, please consider leaving a like and subscribe as it greatly helps the channel. Without any more dilly-daddling, please sit back, relax, grab some succulent, juicy, tender and sensational prawns if you want, and enjoy as we delve into this really amazing discovery. The jagged head Gunard is basically identical to Godwyn the Golden, down to basically every single minute detail. And while at first glance it might just look like some neat inspiration, it goes a lot deeper than that. To start with, these guys, these little cute guys, are found in deep waters. They are the only known species of their genus. This is really important. For starters, whatever Godwyn is, he's the only one of that. He's the only thing, at least to my knowledge, that looks like he does. In the same sense, these little cute guys from the deep water are the only one of their genus. And likewise, there are multiple of this same species, but in Godwyn's case, they're sort of offsprings of him. And to be honest, I think even that makes so much more sense now. If we're going off the interpretation from the jagged heads reproduce via mating. You know, in the beginning, I kind of always thought that maybe Godwyn was asexually reproducing with itself to create these new identical clones that are spread all over the lands between. But now with this knowledge, everything seems to make a lot more sense. Located near most of these death faces that spread the death root, there is some sort of death ally, someone aligned with death around it. And I always thought nothing of this, but now that I think about it, if it needs to mate, perhaps they are mating with these faces. It sounds crazy, but this is Elden Ring where there's gods, and there's literally two gods together who are the same person, yet fuck each other, and they end up making godly babies that are incest babies. You know, this is Elden Ring. Weird shit happens all the time, and I really would not be surprised if this is the case. This also adds a whole nother layer to fear, for she essentially is doing the exact same thing, except she's doing it with the actual guy. She's doing it with the mothership. She's just full docking while the other guys are fighting with the mothership's minions. The further you delve into this, the further this all makes sense. If you look at the death marionettes and you actually find them upon lakes, in Dee's questline he talks about these death marionettes and the fact that around them death is always. This kind of sounds like they're cultivating death, and it sort of makes sense how death has spread around the lands between and the lands of shadow. Loyal servants have gone around and done what has needed to be done for the age of the Duskborn. Of course this is speculation, but my idea of how it continues to spread is perhaps after they've mated, these death root beings sprouted from Godwyn and then his followers, it's sort of like a seed that's planted and then it spreads further. Alternatively, this mating process just goes on and on and on forever, and there's no end. Perhaps when the new bits sprout up, the underlings of the original one just pass it on, and then when it further spreads into like the water pollution, like when we see the crabs that have got death root on them, and the Godwyn face, maybe they've accidentally reproduced with it. There's a lot of possibilities, and I'm really curious to see what you all have to say. My idea of gods inside of Elden Ring has always been that they are primordial beings. What I mean by this, the one great, which we know is the beginning, was a collection of all things, before these outer gods split off from it. Now, by that logic, wouldn't that mean that all these split off outer gods are projections of these primordial forces? This idea is seen many times inside of Elden Ring. A rock god, we've got a moon god, we've got a fire god, so on and so on. But there's one that is missing, and that is water. We hear slight hints of water like the water dancer that subdued the rock god, but an actual god, an outer god of the ocean is never mentioned. It's something that you'd expect to be quite a big focal point. A lot of people have theorised for a while that Godwyn has something to do with the ocean due to his squid-like form. But with this new information, I personally believe there's a lot of connections that can be further made connecting Godwyn to the deep oceans and further to an outer god of the sea. Once again though, questions arise. Now, I've always quite liked the Age of the Dustborn. I think it's one of the better endings when you compare them to Ranni's and the Dung Eater's ending. Not to mention the Frenzy Flame ending, because although I love it and think it's awesome, it doesn't change that it's fucking evil. But if we consider that Godwyn's age is of a water outer god, you'll notice in the Age of the Dustborn ending, the cutscene, we never see anything regarding water. We simply see ash falling upon the golden capital. So this makes me wonder personally, what on earth is the true origins and the true purpose of the Age of the Dustborn if it is truly related to the ocean? Although I don't like to say it, I think there might be some tomfoolery going around. I truly believe there might be some not very nice shenanigans going on with the Dustborn ending. What exactly that is, I am not entirely sure. But there is a really interesting point to do with outer gods that has to be discussed. There's a long-standing theory that Ranni and Godwyn were sort of in on it. They were buddy-buddy and Godwyn was just like, yo sis, can you come just shank me up in the middle of the night please? Yeah, make it all dramatic and shit, yeah? And a lot of people believe that. Something that adds on to this theory regarding this discussion is the fact the moon controls the ocean's tides. Maybe this is nothing and I'm thinking too much into it. But time and time again, From Software makes these niche little references that hold so much value to understanding Elden Ring and their games as a whole. Now before making this video, I wasn't really a big fan of the whole theory that Ranni and Godwyn were in on it. I thought it was a bit silly. But considering what we've just talked about and what we're going to talk about, I honestly think it's quite likely. There are 3 eternal cities inside of Elden Ring. We only have access to 2, or at least 2 that are named, Nokstella and Nokron. And yet there's a third that we know of from item descriptions, but it's never implicitly stated where that is. If you go to the Deeproot Depths and look at the architecture and all the enemies there, not to mention ants that have literally got Newman runes inside the bellies, which is dark in of itself because, to be honest, it looks like the ants have been feeding on the corpses of Newman. And we know the Nox are most likely descendants from Newmans. I'm 99% certain that the Deeproot Depths are this third eternal city. And that's not a new discussion, people have been saying that forever. The important part is, Godwyn is there. Godwyn is located in this eternal city. What do we know about the Nox? The Nox worship the stars. They are working with Ranni to achieve this ending, the Age of Stars. They are awaiting their Night Lord. Don't you think it's a bit too much of a coincidence that Godwyn is literally in one of their eternal cities? Yeah, I absolutely think bloody not. There's a couple more things I need to talk about. First of all, the inspiration is obvious between the 2 characters, that being the fish and Godwyn. They are basically the same thing. Something that adds even further evidence that this was intentional is the fact that these fishes can be found in South Japan. If you didn't know, From Software is a Japanese company. Secondly, although it looks cracked out of its mind when I've showed it on the screen, that is because it's been taken out of its pressure zone and its eyes have just popped the fuck out. In its actual normal habitat, I reckon it look even more like Godwyn. Thirdly, in all of H.P. Lovecraft's work, a lot of the stuff he actually writes about is inspired by the unknown. He loves the fear of it and he writes about it a lot. Hell, it's the main centre point of his mythos. A really strong idea that I've believed in for a long time is that in H.P. Lovecraft's work, the reason why all the creatures are designed after either deep space or deep sea is because of the unknown of them. And I truly believe that's a feeling they've tried to captivate with Godwyn inside of Elden Ring. These jaggerheads are completely alien. If you put this in a sci-fi film and said, this isn't real, this is some shit we've made up, people would no doubt believe you if they didn't know it already existed. It's just one of those very, very cool details that From Software keeps doing, and I love it. Sadly everyone, that is the end of the video. If you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribe as it greatly helps the channel. I'm not going to hold you any longer. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and may you find your worth in the waking world. Don't you dare go hollow, friends, and goodbye.